Welcome everybody to another Modulus Beginner's Guide to Unreal Engine. Today we are going to be building a stamina system to go with the sprinting system that we made in one of the most recent tutorials. So we have everything we need already from that video, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come a little bit above the left shift from our previous video here where we take care of the sprinting mechanics. We're going to right click and we're going to do a begin play node. So this is going to fire off at the beginning of the game when the player is loaded into the game. And what we're going to do right here is pretty simple. We're just going to drag off and do set timer by event. And to give you a little insight into what's happening, so a stamina system by its nature will have to be checking constantly whether or not the player is sprinting. And so the way we do that is we have this node called set timer by event, and we're going to do it every 0.1 second. So 10 times a second it's going to check to see whether or not you're sprinting, and we will drain the stamina based on that, and we will build the stamina if you're not sprinting. You can also, there's a node called event tick which fires every frame, but for something like this we could just do it every 10 times a second is fine. It doesn't have to get much more granular than that. We're going to set it to looping because we want this to happen over and over again. And then we're going to drag off of this event, and then we're going to type in custom event, and we're going to call that stamina tick. Let's just say this is the thing that fires off the event, and we'll call that a tick just because it happens so many times per second. And let's leave that there for now. We're going to come down here, we're going to do another custom event just to keep it tidy. We could do all the code here, but I think it's better if we do it here. We're going to call this manage stamina, and then we can go ahead and call that. So 10 times a second it's going to call this function, and then here is where we'll take care of the logic behind it. We already have this boolean called is sprinting, and so that's going to literally be the first thing we do. We're going to pull that out, hold control and pull that out, hit B, hold B, and then left click, drag that in. And so this is self-explanatory. Every 10th of a second we're going to check whether or not we're sprinting. If we're sprinting, we want a few things to happen. So let's do a sequence here. A sequence node is great. It will fire off these in order. Starting with 0, you can add as many as you want, and then you can remove those, but just imagine a sequence as going through lines of logic, lines of code in sequence. And right now let's go ahead and make a couple more variables. Let's do current stamina. I'm going to make that a float type. A float is just a number that has decimal points. Sometimes it's between 0 and 1 to give a percentage. For our purposes, let's go from 0 to 100 though, just to keep it simple, keep it a little easy to follow. Hit Control W on that, and then do max stamina. And this isn't critical to have current and max, but the further you take the system, you are going to want a concept of max stamina so that you can have a stamina bar. You can increase your max stamina if your character gets stronger throughout the game, so on and so forth. Otherwise, if it's super simple, you can just do a current stamina. Does he have stamina or not? But if you want to go the route of having a stamina bar, which you probably will, you're going to want a concept of max stamina. The first thing that's going to happen, actually let's go ahead and compile save here so we can edit these. Let's set both of these to 100. You now have 100 out of 100 stamina. The first thing that happens is that we're going to want to drain this stamina, and so we're going to literally set current stamina. And what do we set it to? Well, we got to set it to its what it currently is minus 1. So we'll drag that out. We will subtract float minus float. And that works. But if we just did that and we ran out of stamina, we would keep going into the negatives. So what we got to do here is we have to clamp this. And a clamp is it just tells the engine to not go below or above certain values. So let's say 0 and 100. Now for the negative, it would never get to 100, but just for good practice, we say these are the confines that we're operating in. Go ahead and plug that in. And I like to kind of stack my things in a nice little bundle here. And that kind of takes care of that. So the first thing that happens is we are going to set our stamina to our current stamina minus 1. Which also means that if we want to enter into sprinting in general, we want to know, do we have the stamina to sprint? And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to come back to our left shift that we did in the last tutorial, and we're going to make a branch here. And we're going to say is control drag current stamina, and we're going to say is this greater than or equal to 1. Do we have stamina? If so, we're going to go that route. And if not, we're going to do nothing. So now that is taken care of. Nice little trick here. You can organize your lines by double clicking a line, getting a point. You can also drag off of these so that you can have multiple things coming from the same node that don't necessarily have to come through your code. So that takes care of the first line in the sequence. So we're going to come down here and we're going to do a branch here. So this branch checks the initial shift click, but once you're in that state, there's nothing that checks it. So that's what we take care of here. So in theory, if we didn't have this second check and you got to 0 stamina, you would keep sprinting because you succeeded this branch and you never come out of that even if you hit 0 stamina. So that's what this is going to check. Since this is happening so often, we're going to check here is current stamina less than 1. Basically 0 since it's clamped. And if it is less than 1, we're going to grab this character movement, we're going to copy it, and we're going to set max walk speed back to its default, which is 600. And if it's false, we're going to continue sprinting. So this is a self-contained system that will constantly check, and when it gets below 1, we're going to set our max walk speed back to its default, and that will work. Now, if we're not sprinting, we're going to set our current stamina to, let's go up 2 every 10th of a second. So we're going to add that. We're going to go 2. Plug that in. Actually, we're going to clamp that so we don't go above 100. We're going to plug that into here. Like that. And one other thing we have to do here is we're also going to set is sprinting to false so that it doesn't continue to drain even if we're out of stamina, or just sit at 0. And that is everything. Now, we won't have an indicator, so let's go to event tick and let's print string, drag current stamina out with all control, and now every frame we're going to see how much stamina we have. So right now we have 100 on the left side. I'm jogging now, sprinting, and you can see my stamina going down pretty, it's a good pace, going down at a decent pace. And then when I hit 0, my speed went back to 600 and the stamina started raising again. So again, coming down from 100. Because I'm holding shift. And we stop, it goes back up. And you can imagine that in a progress bar, it would do exactly that. It would drain and go up after you release. But for now, that's it. Have a good night.